In this video, we're talking about how $90 games are here and how that's going to affect PlayStation in a bad way. Then we're going to talk about a huge flaw with both the PS5 and PS5 Pro stuttering that needs to be fixed. And finally, is Naughty Dog working on a new Uncharted game? It looks like it. This video is sponsored by Scry and their Arctic PS5 coolers. That's right, Scry is back here on PSReady to sponsor the channel, and I am glad about it because this is my favorite PS5 accessory. And the cool thing is, no matter which PS5 you have, they have a cooler for you. They've got the Arctic V2 for the launch PS5, they've got the Arctic S for the PS5 Slim, and they have, of course, the Arctic Pro for the brand new PS5 Pro, and you're gonna want one of these coolers. The first big benefit is it stops thermal throttling, so no matter what game you're playing, no matter what engine it uses, no matter how hard it's pushing your PS5, it's going to remain at optimal temperatures. And you also get a cool benefit of an extended lifespan, because if you're running your console hot all the time, that's going to degrade the parts quicker. If you equip one of these coolers, it'll run cooler all the time, which will make the parts last longer. I've been playing a lot of the Crew Motorfest lately because of all the updates they've added into the game, and that's a game that pushes the PS5 pretty hard, but I get no lag, no slowdown, no overheating, and when I go to touch my console, when I put it in rest mode, it is cool to the touch. It's honestly kind of insane. And that great performance I just mentioned stays great no matter how long I'm playing, and there is a lot to do in the Crew Motorfest, so I hate to admit it, but I play that game for a long time. I love when Scry comes back to sponsor the channel because I've been using their products for years now. On my launch PS5, my PS5 Slim, and my PS5 Pro, it improves my experience across the board. When you're ready to grab one of these, you can pre-order it through their website, and if you use the code PSReady at checkout, you'll get an extra $5 off. Once again, huge shout out to Scry for sponsoring this video. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. It's like a podcast news show where I round up all the biggest PlayStation news 3 times a week. I set my watch to uploading 3 times a week so you can rely on these videos always going live 3 days a week. I'm fired up about this first news story though. I just watched the Switch 2 reveal, and I'm not going to get into the hardware, but it just makes me laugh, guys. Like, they're charging $450 for a console that can theoretically output 4K. It's not going to do that. There are a few games that'll output 4K, like Mario Odyssey with its patch, maybe Breath of the Wild with its patch, maybe some Pokemon games, but like when I see that they say the dock is going to output 4K, all I can think of is that 8K badge they put on the PS5 box and then moved over to the PS5 Pro box, and there's one game that outputs at 8K, it's Gran Turismo 7, and it's still aggressively upscaling. You're going to be upscaling like crazy just to hit 1080p on this console based on the chip they're using, so don't read into that too much. It just makes me laugh when I see Nintendo fans just like accepting this without any complaint when they just relentlessly on the PlayStation 5's cost and the PS5 Pro's cost. Like, keep it consistent if you're going to criticize pricing, because when you've got the Japanese region locked version of the Switch 2 costing $333 and then everywhere else it's at least $450, that pricing is out of whack in my opinion. Blame it on tariffs if you want, but that is a massive price difference just to get a discount because you're in the native country of Japan. But the real meat and potatoes, the real thing that's blowing my mind is the game pricing. So the Donkey Kong game that they showed very last in the actual reveal trailer, it looks really cool. That one's going to be $70, and I'm not too surprised about that because $70 is the new standard for next gen games. That was set at the beginning of this generation. Even though they're on last generation hardware, they're going to go with current gen pricing on that. But then I saw a news story on Insider Gaming, and they are sticking to this. The MSRP for Mario Kart World digitally is going to be $80, and they're sticking to this part too. I waited for an update to change it because other sites weren't reporting it, but they're sticking with it. The physical version of Mario Kart World is going to be $89.99. Yes, it's going to be $10 shy of $100, and it's not like the DLC pass version. It's not the pre-order version. It's not the extra special Mario Kart edition for all of us man children out there who still love playing Mario games when we're 30 years old. No, this is the base model of Mario Kart World that they're charging $90 for, and this is just going to open the floodgates on all the other consoles. We've actually talked about this recently a lot with Grand Theft Auto 6. There have been a ton of leaks and rumors coming out suggesting that that game is going to be $100. And like, look, if there's any game that is going to be $100 and still sell, it's going to be GTA 6. Like, say what you will about Mario being huge. Of course, he's like the Mickey Mouse of gaming. He's the most recognizable character in gaming besides like Pikachu, but I still feel like they'd have a little bit of trouble charging $100 for a 3D Mario. Mario Kart is massive. I see $90 for that too, just slightly, but GTA is GTA. It's the biggest game ever. It's like consistently selling on PS5, even though it seems like more people have bought GTA 5 on PlayStation consoles than there are PlayStation consoles out there. It is massive. So if there's one game where they could get away with, not saying it's good, but they could get away with charging $100, it's GTA 6. But now you've got Nintendo, who's a generation behind with their handheld console that plays handheld games in addition to console games, charging $70, $80, $90 for games. And this is just not going to be good, because I can tell you right now, companies like Ubisoft, EA, Take-Two, Activision, they are all chomping at the bit to increase game prices, because as we talk about all the time, game development costs have gone through the roof, and they try to subvert that by paying for early access releases. You know, Forza Horizon 5, you can pay over $100 and get the Ultimate Edition, which gives you early access. I mean, Death Stranding 2 is doing it as well. You can get 3-day early access. They're selling season passes. They're selling pre-order bonuses. They're doing anything they can to raise the price artificially of the game without raising the price materially. That's the word I was looking for, to $100. But now that Nintendo is selling Mario Kart World for $90, I mean, we could start expecting to see third-party games charging at least $80 going forward. And there's got to be a breaking point, guys. Like, people already are not buying games. They're playing games like Fortnite. They're playing games like Warzone. They're playing the free-to-play stuff that sells you a battle pass like every couple months for $10, and they're sinking all their money into those games with microtransactions because they can download those games for free, and they also provide infinite content because there's so many software updates. And if you're going to start charging this much for games, I mean, how much more reason do you have to give people to not buy games, or to wait for them to be super cheap, or to just like wait for them to be on PS Plus Extra or Premium? It's like, I don't blame people for that. They have not justified the price increase in any way. I mean, they're keeping the PS4 around, for Christ's sakes, this long. They're making cross-generational games still. Gaming has not advanced in a real noticeable way since the PS4 generation, and now they have the gall to ask for $90 for these games. Like, I gotta be real. I've been playing a lot of indie games lately and budget titles, and I've been having a blast. That's where the innovation is. Games like Atomfall, games like Ready or Not, games like Sulfur, which is incredible, and it's coming to PS5. Not only are those games actually doing new stuff, but they're charging less for it, while you've got all these other companies copy and pasting the same types of games over and over again, giving you open worlds full of bloated checkbox style side quests and bad voice acting and poor cutscene direction, and then they're asking for $70 for it, and now they're gonna ask for even more. Like, I'll be there day one for games like Ghost of Yotei for sure, or Death Stranding 2. Those look like genuinely innovative, cool, boundary pushing games. But like, as good as Assassin's Creed Shadows runs and looks on the PlayStation 5 Pro, the more I watch of that game, the more I see that it's just another Ubisoft game. Like, yeah, it performs better than the last few, but that's because they gave it the actual amount of time it needed to be finished, and that took a lot of work. Like, people bitched and moaned a lot on the internet about that game, and that's what forced them to delay it, because they had to have a mea culpa and say, people are already not interested in this game. If we release it as broken and buggy as all of our other games, no one's gonna buy it. Like, that's what it took to get them to finish Assassin's Creed Shadows before releasing it. That's the type of game that does not justify $70, $80, or $90 by any means, but those are the games that are going to start charging that much, because the suits don't see this. They don't see that it's the creativity or lack thereof that's the problem. They see it as, we're not making enough money on these games, so we should just charge more for it. And we're going to hit a breaking point. I just feel it coming. Like, there is going to be a crash if they go this crazy with the game pricing, but a handheld console is doing it from Nintendo, so they just got the green light, guys. This is bad. So yeah, I guess let me know what your thoughts are on the Switch 2. I'm skipping it. I'm waiting for a price drop. I was waiting to play Tears of the Kingdom on a console that could actually run it. It looks like I can just wait a little bit longer, because I'm fine with my PS5 Pro, and I'm feeling good about that $700 cost for it right now, because I'm not paying $90 for games. But that brings me to the second news story here, talking about PS5 and PS5 Pro. Digital Foundry did a deep dive on VRR, so variable refresh rate. If you don't know what that is, basically it's like your TV, if if it supports it, it can match the refresh rate of the TV to the actual frame rate of the game. So if you're playing a game like Elden Ring or something that drops to 50 FPS regularly, if you fall within the variable refresh rate window, it won't feel like stuttering or mega frame drops as much because the TV is matching the frame rate of the game. The Steam Deck OLED is excellent with this. It does a really good job with VRR. It's not full VRR, but you can actually change the hertz of the display to match the frame rate your game is outputting, and I love it. But there is a massive problem specifically with VRR on the PlayStation 5 and PS5 Pro, and that's that after around an hour of playing, they cause stuttering. So Digital Foundry went through a bunch of games, first party, third party, everything in between, and found out that the vast majority of games experience this issue when you're using VRR. And if we lived in a perfect world, like games came out optimized and actually ran at a correct frame rate and stayed at that frame rate, this wouldn't be a problem. But like, as we're seeing with every single game release, it seems like lately, none of them are sticking to the actual frame rate that they're putting on the box. Like, performance mode should mean 60 FPS, but it generally means 40 to 60 FPS. So people just turn on VRR to kind of compensate for that. But if you do that, it's going to introduce stuttering that happens at a fixed time interval. So every 8 seconds, you're going to see a 1 frame stutter. And if you want to know what it's like playing on a PC over the past 5 years, you'll get a good look at it, because that's what happens with every Unreal Engine game and seemingly every AAA, third party, first party, whatever game that comes out. They all stutter like that, and it's super annoying. So I've been dealing with this for years, and my way around that was playing non-multiplayer first-person shooter games on my PlayStation 5 console. I've never had to deal with VRR, but as someone who also plays on PC, I'm used to hard locking my games at 60 FPS, and I usually would like that on the PS5. The stuttering is just too much. It's like the one thing I cannot deal with in game. Like, seeing the game hard stutter for a full second, it's just too much for me to handle. And I always see people when games stutter saying like it runs fine on my hardware, it runs fine on my PS5. It doesn't. You just don't notice it, and you're extremely lucky. So do not look up these videos. Do not look up footage of stuttering that breaks it down, because it is there. You're just incapable or don't see it yet, and you're lucky, because once you notice it, you'll notice it in everything, and you can't get past it. It just ruins the experience of playing games. I know a lot of critics out there don't care about performance for some reason, but I personally do. Like, they're not charity. It's selling a product, and if you're selling a game for $70 or more coming up soon, your game should run at a locked frame rate. Whether it's 30, 40, or 60, it should be able to be played at a locked frame rate without stuttering, hitching, traversal stutters, any of those weird problems that have cropped up this generation. Like, if you go see a movie, if a movie was dropping frames, you'd go to the front desk and ask for a refund. And I don't know why gaming has got this free pass to release these games that have major stuttering issues. But for once, it actually seems like it's the console's fault and not the actual game's fault. And people have been complaining about this for years. It was introduced from the beginning with VRR, and there have been plenty of Reddit threads about it. There have been plenty of tweets about it. People have been emailing Sony about it, and they refuse to acknowledge it. But now that it's happening on the PS5 and PS5 Pro, and the golden boys of game performance, Digital Foundry, have gone through an extensive test to show that it happens on basically every game out there, Sony's got to figure this out. Like, I don't care how much time, money, energy, whatever it takes to figure this out, but if Xbox can handle VRR, if PC can handle VRR, if the ROG Ally X can handle VRR, there's no reason why the $500 PS5 or the $700 PS5 Pro should not be able to handle VRR. So hopefully we don't have to wait long for this to get fixed now that it's out there. But I just wanted to talk about it in this video to kind of get it more out there, so at least you're aware that it's not you. Your game is actually stuttering if you're using VRR on your console, and a lot of people actually use this. This is not a niche issue. But that brings me to the third news story here, which is an interesting update from Naughty Dog. So we know they're working on Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. I got the name right once again. We also know, thanks to Daniel RPK, that The Last of Us Part 3 is well into production and already filming mocap and stuff like that for cutscenes. I don't know why Neil Druckmann was saying that. Don't take it as a given, because they're already working on it. But it turns out they also have a third game in development, which is seemingly a new Uncharted game. And the reason for that is that the guy who's directing this game over at Naughty Dog with his new small team is the guy who directed Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. And as far as the Uncharted games go, Nathan Drake's my favorite. I love that character. Probably my favorite first-party character Sony's ever come up with. He's just awesome. And it bums me out that after Uncharted 4, it looks like they're switching to his daughter. That's just like not who I want to play as. But The Lost Legacy, it added open world segments. The fidelity was amazing. Playing as Chloe and Nadine was awesome. It was a great $40 game that lasted 8 to 10 hours. I ended up beating it in one sitting, and it bums me out that that was the last Uncharted experience for a very long time. But the point is, it was very good. So if this guy worked on the Lost Legacy, the expansion standalone game for PlayStation 4 back in the day, it stands to reason that all of these rumors we've been hearing about a new Uncharted game are actually this guy's new team working on that new Uncharted. And it wouldn't be too weird, because I know originally it was San Diego studio who was supposed to be working on bringing Uncharted back, but as we saw with The Last of Us Part 1, that project was started by a different studio, and once it was far enough along, Naughty Dog came in and took it over. So I'm assuming that's what's going on here. Now, unfortunately, it looks like Intergalactic is going to be the only game Naughty Dog actually ships during the PS5 generation. I would assume that this game, this Uncharted game, if that's what it is going to be after The Last of Us Part 3, unless it's a smaller project just going back in Nathan Drake's history, kind of like this God of War Greek game that's coming out later this year. That could be really cool. But if this is a full-on AAA Naughty Dog experience, I would assume the release order is Intergalactic on PS5, The Last of Us Part 3 on PS6, and then this game at the end of the PS6 generation. I don't know, but talking about that story where we were talking about the games getting more expensive, something's got to be done about the time it takes to make these games, because it is embarrassing for Naughty Dog to only release one game during the entire PS5 generation, when if you go back to the PS3, we got Uncharted 1, 2, 3, and The Last of Us, and that is insane. But yeah, guys, that about brings me to the end of this video. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.